Welcome to week 6. Are we really in week 6? Good Lord, the season's moving fast. Of the M&M show. So much happened this week, George. So much happened.
Yeah, I remember signing off last time. I said, "Well, let's just hope that none of these games get canceled due to COVID." And this has been the most bizarre week yet. So
Yeah, and I don't think we're done. Hopefully, we get as many games in as we can. Hopefully, COVID leaves as many of our teams alone as possible. I think you signed off saying that, and you text me later that night saying, "And there's more positives." So one thing we have to look forward to is not having Thursday night football because, well, right above me here on my TV, I've got Tuesday night football. When was the last time we had Tuesday night football? Not in my lifetime.
there was one game that was rescheduled for Tuesday because it was supposed to snow. I think it was a Philadelphia Eagle game, but recent history, no,
We
there
got
there
my
hasn't been any.
statistician George out here letting me know. I was gonna say the one time I remember this almost happening was when one of the hurricanes was rolling through New Orleans. They moved the game. It's crazy stuff going on out here. So we're excited to bring you all the stuff you need to know from the previous week. We're gonna start week 6 now. George, you with me?
I'm with you. Let's do this.
Scratch. Okay.
Eagles Vikings, December 10th, December 28th, 2010.
Wow, of course. And George actually, not only that, remembered the game and went and found it. So welcome back. I have my statistician George just looking everything up for me on the spot, on the cue. A lot of injuries. Well, not even a lot. Two injuries that were pretty big this week. Obviously, the big one, your boy Dak. Now, be honest. Did you have some tears on Sunday when your boy Dak went down?
So I didn't have tears, but I just thought that it was very apropos for like the way that things have been going from an injury perspective.
Sure.
And being a closet Cowboys fan, part of me was hopeful that we were going to take that as like a we have to prove everybody wrong and we can handle it without them sort of thing. So I'm hoping that they tighten up their defense and they get more of a run heavy concept going on in the future.
Well, I don't want to foreshadow it too much, but I'm really honest, when we get to the three players, the quarterback, receiver, running back I'm excited about, a lot of that's going to have to do with Dallas. So just be aware. Be prepared for that on the forefront. So if we're looking at that, the other big injury this week, and I know it's not something that's long-term right this second, but we've got Dalvin Cook with an adductor strain, and so that could put him on the sideline for a while. That's not necessarily a huge deal for the Vikings because Mattison looked really, really good. But obviously, those Cook owners, if you didn't have Mattison as your
Handcuff.
handcuff, you're in big trouble right now, right?
It's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal because Madison is definitely a really good player. You, as a fantasy owner, should have had somebody drop Madison by now because he hasn't really been doing much. There's no way that somebody was hanging on to him. So instead of spending a high draft pick for your handcuff, you could have picked him up off of waivers potentially. And now you're in a sticky situation where you have to make do until Cook actually comes back.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not good. By the way, quick update: Josh Allen dropped back on first down right after kickoff, and quickly threw a pick off the hands of his receiver. So the Tennessee Titans are already in business here in the red zone. So live updates on M&M. We're bringing it all to you here. So no, I'm with you there. I know in our league, Madison is absolutely available out there. And so we'll see, I doubt he drops to the Cook owner. So we'll see who goes out there, gets him first, and is able to put him in their pocket because that's a get, right? So, and we've got a touchdown to AJ. Good Lord, to AJ Brown. What did we just talk about? We've got a touchdown to A.J. Brown. Again, bringing everything to you live. It is 6-0 Titans, 16-yard touchdown catch from A.J. Brown on Tannehill's first drop. For his first drop back tonight. So, again, I mean, Buffalo brought some pressure there, but wow, just didn't get it done. So
that's good for AJ Brown owners, but I don't anticipate anybody was starting him this week just due to the fact that he hasn't even played yet this year. Week one a little bit, but not since.
The guy I'm playing in our league is definitely playing him, and I'm currently getting beat in our league because of that. So hopefully that's his only catch of the night. That would be perfect. So here we go with our let's start with some of the players we are worried about. George, who's got you frazzled and a little worried from last week?
Just a couple of people that I'm worried about from a fantasy perspective is Lamar Jackson is one of them. The way that he dominated the Bengals, I think they won about 28-3, or maybe it was in the lower 20s to 3. The way that he dominated without having to actually use his legs or use his arm too much is actually deeply concerning. Last year, most of his value came in his legs and him running a lot and him having to really work to beat these teams. And if his defense stays the way it is, and he's not going to have to put a lot of effort if it's a weak conference, I'm pretty concerned about him, and I'm concerned about whether or not he's going to be a must start moving forward.
It's interesting because he was a top pick in a lot of leagues. Give me a wide receiver you're worried about.
For that, I'm thinking Juju Smith-Schuster.
Claypool 4 touchdown Sunday. Wow.
Yeah, so the reason behind that is because Claypool is really coming on, and there's a lot of wide receiver talent there. Where it seems like that they've got who's going to be their main guys for the foreseeable future, and it doesn't really seem like there's a fit for Juju. He had a lot of targets the first couple of weeks. The first week he notoriously had 2 touchdowns in the same game, and he was about 25 fantasy points, and ever since he's been really quiet.
Yeah.
Not seeing what his role is going to be there moving forward.
Interesting. What about the running back that's got you worried?
So person that got me excited last week is the same person that has me worried right now, Antonio Gibson. Reason being is J.D. McKissic is sneaking back in there again. He's the more veteran guy. What we saw this previous week is we saw the result of having inconsistent quarterback play. Although it was nice seeing
nice moment, right, to see Alex Smith
back. It seems like he was leaning on McKissic because he's the veteran there, and for potentially for his blocking purposes. So I'm concerned about Antonio Gibson, especially with the quarterback play being very erratic there.
Yeah, no, the quarterback play there in general has been very erratic, no matter which of the 3 they've got going. I'll tell you who I'm worried about from a quarterback perspective, and that's Phillip Rivers. That arm is made of noodle. Twice this year, the Colts have decided, like, we're going to put the game on Rivers, and twice this year he's just been noodle armed. And so I don't like seeing that. I'm worried about my Colts, and I'm worried about Rivers being able to actually chuck a football. For me, with a wide receiver, I'm worried about is Michael Gallup. Now I know that he was found by Andy Dalton a couple times in that game and helped get them to win. But let's be real, Dalton's first drop back as a Cowboys quarterback was a fumble. It was a fumble. He came in and immediately fumbled the football. And we look at that, and I'm not excited about Andy Dalton being a quarterback for the Cowboys. And the guy that's lowest on that pecking order in general has been Gallup, and so that's gotta concern you just a little bit. So does me if I'm a Michael Gallup owner. And then the running back I'm worried about is actually Dalvin Cook, and it's not that I doubt his talent, but he's been an oft injured guy. And these adductor, like, this is something that could stick with him throughout the season now. In other sports, This is something that could keep a guy out for months, 4-6 weeks easily without thinking about it. And Madison's a good back. He's a talented kid. And I'm a little worried about that if I'm a fantasy owner um, for the Dalvin Cook folks out there.
Yeah, I think those are all really solid picks there. Dalvin Cook is almost an expectation to get injured at some point. Somebody had a funny joke about like Keenan Allen, like it's in his contract that he gets hurt by week 6. But Dalvin Cook is turning out to be like one of those players. He's very talented player, but always having the injury bug pop up.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been something that's been an issue for him throughout his career for sure, and so it makes you think about that.
I think the narrative here is the story of the aging quarterback, because Drew Brees did not look great either yet last night.
Yeah, I mean he was good in the second half. He really made some throws. I think he had 200 yards through the air. But the fact that they keep having to come back in games, he hasn't looked good. In a lot of games, Tom Brady didn't look good in Chicago. I think that was the first time Tom Brady had ever lost like a Thursday night game or something. There's no way that that's right, but that's a spot in where typically he's he's a very safe pick in those primetime games. So I'm with you with these aging quarterbacks. None of them are in, I guess, well, Drew Brees isn't in great shape, but a lot of these guys aren't in bad shape. Like Rivers and the Colts are 3-2. The Saints are 2-3. And I think Tampa's 3-2. So it's like they're all in shape to make a run at the playoffs. But
you're forgetting somebody.
It's kind of in spite of them, isn't it? Who am I missing?
You're forgetting somebody that's 0-6. Matt Ryan.
Well, I guess Matt Ryan's not young anymore. He's 35, but he's not. I mean, Rivers is I think 38, 39. Brady's obviously, and Brady and Brees are both in their 40s.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he's up there. He is aging, but I also, can you blame the Falcons' woes on Matt Ryan? I don't think you can.
I think their woes in a large part is their defense, and they can't figure out an identity without Julio Jones.
Well, the identity should be Calvin Ridley, but the reality is they can't run the ball either. And that
I think Calvin Ridley is 10 times better when Julio Jones is in the lineup.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I don't. If Julio Jones being healthy obviously makes them better. There's no doubt about it. But Julio Jones is also, I think, 31, 32 now. The reality is like the shelf life on these wide receivers in the NFL, like he's coming to the end of his career, and he's been a guy that's been perpetually, like, he's always played through it, but like a calf, an ankle, and like he's always got something going. He's always questionable and playing on Sunday, and you get to doing that for 10 years, and eventually you're like, maybe my body's telling me no.
Is he the new Roddy White? So like when he came into the league, is he going to have a Roddy White like gear?
Is Julio?
Yeah. I don't think so, because they're two different players, but I just figured that'd be an interesting comparison.
I don't know. I mean, it's unfair to say that about Julio right now. Really, just because I don't know. I think if Julio's healthy, he's a very good player. He's a very good player. His hands, his route running, his ability to get downfield. I just think he's just not healthy right now. And I think it'd be better. And I know, like, if he could just sit for a game or two and really just heal up, then I think they'd be better off. But the reality is I don't think it matters. They're 0-6. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It might be a time to actually let him get a little
0-5,
healed up.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's time to heal up. All right. Well, let's move it over to this side. Who's got you excited? And before we start, right, let's visit last week. The three guys you chose were Dak, again, may his ankle rest in peace this year. Mm-hmm. Gibson, who I was actually with you. I thought like this guy could have a great game. And that just didn't really work out for him with the new quarterbacks. And then you had a wide receiver with Christian Kirk, who I think he caught, like, he didn't have a bad game. I think he caught 5 balls for 78 yards, but he didn't find the end zone, which would have been kind of that
Mhm.
ultimate helping spot for you. So that netted you 38 points. I had 55 points with Big Ben, who had a big game. Sammy Watkins, who got hurt, but luckily enough, caught me 2 balls and a touchdown before he got hurt. So, and then my boy Zeke, who dominated as he does. So, I went in and took down last week. Who's got you excited this week, though?
So this week, who I had in mind was Justin Herbert,
Yeah, I almost went with him as my QB.
just because he is so not somebody that you were thinking about going into this fantasy season. And there was a certain point where he threw like 12 balls and he had 4 touchdowns last night, or 3 touchdowns, or whatever the case might be. It was like a 33% chance that the ball he throws is going to be a touchdown, right? So
Yeah,
he looks.
the one thing I'll say about Herbert that does concern me is it's that completion percentage, and I know you see that with rookies a lot. Kid can obviously chuck the ball downfield, but I think like at one point in time yesterday, like you said, he was 12 for whatever with 3 touchdowns, but it was like 12 for like 25. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. He was chucking the ball everywhere, and he wasn't doing. It just he was incompleting a lot of passes, which is a problem.
Yeah, the thing I like about him though is he has a lot of talent around him. Between Hunter Henry,
Yeah,
between Keenan
talented kid.
Allen, obviously if he stays healthy, Mike Williams finally came to life. So
Yeah, I
uh,
don't know if he's been hurt all year or what, but he made me look stupid for dropping him. I'll tell you that much.
So he's been hurt, but also the assumption was that Mike Williams would have been more successful if Justin Herbert wasn't playing, because I think people just, when they hear rookie, they just assume arm strength is going to be an issue, or being able to stay in the pocket is going to be an issue. So anybody that kind of gets the ball later on in a progression is seen
Yeah.
more than likely struggle. So then your Keenan Allens and your Hunter Henrys gain value, but then Mike Williams went down in value for a lot of folks.
Well, he didn't do anything. I mean, this is the first week where he's really done anything besides maybe catch 1 ball.
He's
And
been
he looked
hurt,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's obviously a drop in the pan. That'll be another guy that I think a lot of people will go get in leagues because he's been good in the past. Typically, the other thing I would say about Mike Williams is just generally speaking, he's been very touchdown dependent. And I know last year he caught like 90 balls, but like his other 2 years in the league, if he wasn't scoring touchdowns, I think he had 60 catches, 600 yards, right? Which just isn't going to do it in fantasy leagues. But we'll see how that ends up playing out as as we as the year goes on.
Yeah, and for wide receiver, I put Henry Ruggs. I'm excited for Ruggs. He's finally coming back. He's finally healthy. I think that he is going to be key in the Raiders' offense, and he looks explosive and dynamic. So I'm excited to see him play again, and
Yeah,
I'm excited to see him play the rest of the year.
he had a good week for sure last week. And then who's your running back?
Uh, I went pretty arbitrary this week, but what I went with is Zeke Elliott. I went with who you did last week because of the fact that I really think it's going to have to be his team now. There's nobody to really hide behind. They're going to have to move to a more run-heavy offense, and he is already second or third in the league very quietly at running back. And I only anticipate him to get even more touches moving forward.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And I did not go with the Bills are having a touchdown called back due to an illegal shift. By the way, illegal shift, like dumbest rule in the NFL ever. Like I'm fine if they want to say like an eligible guy caught the ball, or like because of that trickery a guy caught the ball, but like an illegal shift, so dumb. Anyway, I mean I get it if somebody's running directly at the line of scrimmage on the like they try to treat it like arena, but like come on. So moving on, I'll tell you my 3 picks this week. And I told you, I foreshadowed this. You were talking about, I don't think Dallas's defense is going to get any better with Andy Dalton on the field. The only way that could possibly happen is if they really do 1-2 punches with Pollard and Zeke, and they just try to control the clock. Maybe, right? that defense gets a little more rest and it looks better, but I just don't see it. So I'm betting big on the Cardinals this week to dominate that game. I got Kyler Murray, I've got Chase Edmonds, and I've got Hopkins, all having monster games.
I like it. I think that's makes a lot
Triple
of sense.
stacking it, DFS daily fantasy style. I'm just gonna triple stack it.
It makes
So
sense. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd be curious to see if they gave Chase Edmonds all of the carries in that backfield and all the catches in that backfield, how much better he would be.
I mean he gets like half the workload that that mine's going blank. Who's the other back there? Help me out, George.
Um, wow, we're gonna lose our cred.
Yeah. My mind went blank because no Sean Moreno popped in there, and that's the only one that's there. It doesn't matter.
No Sean Marino.
Yeah, it's definitely not no Sean. But no, it's when we look at that, he gets half the carries as their other backs, and he's still putting up better points. He had 2 touchdowns this week. He was looking better, and I like him a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really bode well for him that we can't even remember Kenyon Drake's name at this
Kenyon
point.
Drake. Well, Kenyon Drake has yet to make it through. Like I think he's gone through 1 full season being a starter, and I
Hmm.
don't I don't see that stopping this year. I think it's only a matter of time. And we've talked about this until Drake takes over full time there.
Yeah, I mean, he
Tell
was really impressive at the end of last year, was it? And then
He had a game last year. You talking about Kenyon Drake or are you talking about Chase Edmonds?
Drake.
I mean, he had when he got traded, he was good for a couple of weeks, but it was very boomer bust. It was like he was either gonna dominate or he was just gonna not do anything, and that was it. That was the whole of it.
Yeah. So in 2019, he played 8 games with Arizona, and he had 8 touchdowns in those 8 games.
Yeah, it's not been all sunshine and roses. Um, so let's move on to if you can pick them up, go get them. Who's out there in the waiver wire? We've kind of talked about a couple of these guys, and maybe this is it. It's going to be thin. I mean, we're coming into week 6 here. It's going to be thin out there. Mike Williams is available in a lot of leagues. A lot of people gave up on him. He's available in our league. Another guy who's been available and is probably still available in a lot of shallower leagues is actually Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds still available in a lot of leagues out there, and I think he's a guy you can go get. And eventually, like we're saying, like he's outperforming Kenyon Drake, and I think he's a guy that you can go get. What about you?
So I've liked, from a wide receiver perspective, I actually mentioned I think it might have been week 1 or week 2, how Chase Claypool could had a chance to be a really super sleeper this year. I think he's worth a pickup. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver for this year. I agree with Mike Williams as well for a receiver. I think that folks have given up on him because he was injured, and he has the ability to go from just being an end zone target because of his size and his athleticism to actually being one of the top receivers on the team with a young quarterback that could actually throw the ball to him. He can go get it. I think you talked a little bit about running back. For me, that's Justin Jackson. I think with
Yeah,
I think with Austin Eckler hurt, I think that Justin Jackson would make a really good running back just in general. Just maybe keep Eckler to just like to passing or third down work. But Justin Jackson was really impressive yesterday. Uh, picked up 5 or 6 yards per run, and it was able to catch the ball really good out the backfield. I think that with a lot of the talk about uh, Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler, I think Justin Jackson is a really deceptively good running back.
yeah. I mean, he was injured to start the year, and I think a lot of people, again, it's one of those guys that people just kind of gave up on a little bit as he was getting hurt. Um, So yeah, a lot of ifs, ands, or buts as far as that goes. Is there a guy out there that you think maybe you could buy low on right now, or somebody that you're saying, hey, if you got him, sell high because now's the time to get rid of him?
Is there a sell high to get rid of somebody? Um, so from a redraft league perspective, I think that Odell Beckham would be a good person to sell high on. I think he's had his best game, and he's not going to finish in the top 10 or top 15
Sure.
at wide receiver.
Sure. I think if you're a Darrell Henderson owner, if you can sell high on him right now to somebody who's a little bit running back needy, that's a spot that I think a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, I think the kid's a good kid, but I think especially if you're in like a dynasty league, I think Cam Akers is still the future there. And they're running out of. I mean, they've got 3 running backs in that committee, and so if you've got not Malcolm Brown, you should definitely be selling on Malcolm Brown. But if you've got Darrell Henderson, I think that's a guy you can try to sell high on right now.
There's just too many cooks in the kitchen there.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say as a pickup for quarterback, Andy Dalton would be a good choice, just to see what he's capable of doing, especially if you're not going to spend a lot of fat budget for it. And the more savvy owners or the other owners in your league aren't as savvy as you are, he has the potential to be a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he had some good years in Cincinnati, so it's definitely something he could do. George, before we sign off for the fantasy section, give me your big surprise from week 5.
Big surprise for me would have to be, it might be an obvious one for a lot of folks, but just the ability, just how good Chase Claypool looked and how he is going to be a name in the league for the next 10, 15 years.
I'm going to go back to somebody that you picked for the guys that's got you excited, but I'm going to go with Herbert. I know he's looked good over his first few starts, and I get it. There's no fans in the stadium, but playing in New Orleans against a guy that, like, when he was starting in the league, I don't even know if Justin Herbert was alive. You know what I mean? So when we think about that, like coming into New Orleans, and I know they didn't win that game, but like he performed well. He looked good. He looked savvy. He wasn't rattled. And so that's somebody like, man, I was shocked that I thought, and I know I took New Orleans in that game, but I didn't think that was going to be a super close game. I thought that, the sun shines on you and you shrivel up a little bit. And man, he answered to it. So I thought that was awesome. Good to see.
You being an Indy fan, do you think it's time that they sit Rivers and go with the kid?
I don't. So here's the thing. Well, Jacoby's not a kid. That's the problem. And they're definitely not going to go to Eason. So if we look at that, I mean, they're definitely not going to go to Eason. If we look at that, I think it's time for, I wouldn't say to necessarily sit Rivers. It's time for them to control the offense, though, not Rivers, right? If we go back a couple of weeks, he was in Chicago. They got inside the 5. They had it 1st and goal inside the 5, and he threw it 3 straight times. None of them were anywhere near being a touchdown. And they settled for a field goal. Now, luckily, the Colts defense dominated that Colts offense with Nick Foles' first start, and it didn't come back to bite us. You saw that bite. You're going to see that bite you against teams that have a better offense, right? Where your defense is, or you have some defensive injuries or a tackle get injured, right? Rivers didn't do a good job controlling this game, and he kept thinking he was going to win it with his noodle arm. I don't think Rivers is necessarily done. He just has to understand that he's not 28. And they're not asking him to put everything on his shoulders. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's time, not necessarily to bench him, but if he doesn't listen to coaches and keeps checking out of runs to throw interceptions, then yeah, you got to sit him. Don't get me wrong. I also don't think that Jacoby Brissett's the answer. So maybe it's time to start tanking and get a draft pick and then just let Eason play next year. Who knows? I will already tell you this: no matter what happens this year, I don't want Rivers back next year.
Yeah, it's a one and done, I think.
This is one and done. It's time for him to retire. His time in the sun is gone. So maybe they go get Matt Ryan. He's still got plenty of juice left in his arm. So, and with somebody that that actually gives him a running game and stuff like that. Remember when Matt Ryan last had a running game? They won. They didn't win. They went to the Super Bowl and had Dan Quinn known how to coach, they would have won that Super Bowl.
That's true. Yeah, that was one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history.
Well, it would have been, except,
They blew that lead.
Yeah, they blew that lead. That was gross. So, all right, well, that's it. That's all the time we have for the fantasy section. We'll see you back right around the corner where we're going to tell you all the picks for week 6. Stick with us.